Have you ever stepped back after a long day of cleaning, looked around your home and thought, why doesn't it feel as fresh as it should? The floors are spotless, the counters wiped, the bed is made with care, and yet something's off. Maybe it's a faint, musty smell you can't quite place. Maybe the air feels heavier than it should, or maybe it's just a quiet feeling deep down, like your home is clean, but not truly clean. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Most of us take pride in keeping a tidy home. But what if I told you that the things making your home feel off aren't the big messes, but the small, silent corners we forget to notice? I'm talking about the hidden places we walk past every day, the overlooked spots that quietly gather dust, bacteria, and little bits of the outside world we drag in without even knowing it. And the worst part? They're the very things that shape how your home feels. Not just how it looks, but how it feels. The good news is, with just a little bit of attention and the right approach, you can bring back that lightness, that fresh air feeling, that sense of calm that makes a house feel like home. In this video, we're not talking about chores. We're talking about love, about care, about creating a home that nurtures you, comforts you, and welcomes you the way it should. So if you've been wondering why your space doesn't feel quite right, even when everything looks perfect, stay with me. Because what we're about to talk about might just change the way you feel in your own home. 1. Window tracks and door rails, the narrow path to fresh air. Let's start with a place you probably haven't looked at in years, your window tracks and sliding door rails. These narrow little channels sit quietly at the bottom of your windows, often hidden behind curtains or blinds. They don't scream for attention, but over time, they become a quiet collection zone for dust, pollen, dead bugs, pet hair, and even bits of leaves or sand from outside. And the worst part? Every time you open a window to let in some fresh air, you're also stirring up whatever is built up down in those tracks. One woman I spoke to said she kept cleaning her living room over and over. Air fresheners, candles, even essential oil diffusers, but nothing made it feel truly clean. Then one sunny afternoon, she opened her patio door and finally looked down. What she saw shocked her. A thick line of black dust, cobwebs and mildew jammed in the rail. It hadn't been touched in over a decade. After she cleaned it, the difference was almost instant. The air felt lighter. The space smelled cleaner. And she said something she hadn't felt in a while: relief. Here's the good news. It's not hard to clean and you don't need fancy tools. Start by brushing out the dry debris with an old toothbrush. If you have a handheld vacuum with a narrow attachment, use it to suck up all the loose dirt. Then take a butter knife or small spatula, wrap a cloth around it, dip it in a mix of vinegar and warm water, and scrub along the tracks. For the corners, a cotton swab works wonders. If it's been a long time, you might need to go over it twice. But once you do, you'll feel the difference. Not just in how your window slides, but in how your space breathes. Because the places that let light and air into your home deserve just as much care as everything else. Clean tracks don't just help the window move, they help your whole home feel alive again. 2. Doorknobs and light switches, the hands we forget. Now think for a moment. How many times do you open a door or flip a light switch in a single day? 5? 10, maybe 20 without even realizing it. From the moment we wake up, our hands move through the house like clockwork. We turn knobs, press switches, walk from room to room, and we bring everything we've touched along with us. But when it's time to clean, somehow these tiny high-touch spots rarely make the list. Here's the truth. Doorknobs and light switches are some of the most touched surfaces in any home, and also some of the most neglected. They may be small, but over time, they quietly collect layers of grime, bacteria, oils from our skin, and even viruses. And because we touch them so often, those germs travel quickly from person to person, room to room. Especially in households with grandchildren visiting or someone recovering from a cold, these areas can quietly work against all your other cleaning efforts. I remember a woman telling me how her grandson used to wake up sneezing every morning. She thought it was just allergies. But then she began wiping down the doorknob and light switch in his bedroom once a week. The sneezing stopped. That was the only thing she changed. Maybe it was coincidence, or maybe it was the power of cleaning where it counts most. So here's what to do. Once a week, take a clean cloth, lightly dampened with disinfectant. You can use a store-bought spray or even a homemade mix of vinegar and a drop of dish soap. Gently wipe every doorknob, especially in high-traffic areas like the bathroom, kitchen, and bedrooms. Don't forget the light switches, but always use a slightly damp, not wet cloth to avoid electrical issues. If your switches have grooves or textured surfaces, a cotton swab can get into the details. It only takes a few minutes, but the impact is bigger than it seems. Because when you clean the things we all touch, you're doing more than disinfecting. You're caring for everyone who lives in and passes through your home. And that, in the end, is what makes a space feel safe, not just tidy. 3. Remote control. The germs hiding in plain sight. Let's talk about one of the most beloved items in any home, the remote control. It's there for every quiet evening, every movie night, every lazy Sunday afternoon. We grab it without thinking, flip through channels while snacking, sometimes even fall asleep with it in our hands. But here's the thing. When was the last time you actually cleaned your remote? For most people, the answer is never. And that's where the problem starts. The remote control is one of the most touched objects in the home and also one of the dirtiest. Think about it. It picks up oils from our hands, crumbs from snacks, germs from everyone who uses it, including visiting grandchildren or anyone who's been under the weather. Over time, it becomes a quiet little petri dish for bacteria, all while sitting right in the center of your living room. One woman I know shared that her den always had a strange, stale smell. She vacuumed the rug, wiped the furniture, even shampooed the carpet, but the smell lingered. Then one day, on a whim, she cleaned her remote. What came off was shocking. Grime between the buttons, stickiness on the sides. After that, the smell was gone. Just like that. So here's how to keep it clean. Once a week, take out the batteries for safety. Use a soft cloth lightly dampened with rubbing alcohol, nothing dripping wet, and gently wipe down the entire surface, paying close attention to the buttons and edges. A cotton swab dipped in alcohol works beautifully for tight spots. If someone in the house has been sick, it's a good idea to clean the remote daily until everyone is well. It only takes 2 minutes, but it makes your entire living room feel cleaner, fresher, and more inviting. Because when the object we touch the most is clean, everything around it feels calmer too. And that's what home should feel like, not just comfortable, but cared for. 4. Lamps and lampshades, the dust that dims the light. Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you cleaned your lampshades? Not replaced the bulb, not moved the lamp to dust around it, but actually cleaned the lampshade itself? If you can't remember, you're not alone. Lamps are one of those items that quietly do their job without asking for attention. They light up our evenings, our reading corners, and sometimes our memories. But over time, they collect a fine layer of dust that most of us never notice, until suddenly the room doesn't feel quite as bright. One older gentleman I spoke with told me he thought his reading lamp was just wearing out. He even bought a new bulb, but the light still seemed dull. It wasn't until his daughter wiped down the lampshade that he realized the problem wasn't the bulb, it was the dust. After a good cleaning, he said it felt like someone turned the sun back on in his living room. Dust on lampshades might seem harmless, but it doesn't just stay put. Every time you turn on a fan, open a window, or even walk by, that dust lifts into the air. And for people with allergies, asthma, or simply a sensitive nose, that can make a real difference in how they feel, especially at night. So here's what to do. Every couple of weeks, gently dust your lampshades. For fabric ones, a soft brush, microfiber cloth, or even a lint roller can lift away the dust without damaging the material. If there's time, a slightly damp cloth works too, but don't soak it. For glass or plastic shades, a bit of warm water mixed with mild dish soap does the trick. Wipe carefully and dry fully to avoid water spots. And don't forget the base and switch. They collect grime just like any other surface. Clean lamps don't just look better, they feel better. They brighten the space. They lift the mood. And sometimes they remind us that even the softest, quietest parts of a home deserve care. Because light isn't just about seeing, it's about feeling. And in a clean, well-lit room, it's easier to feel at peace. 5. Toothbrush holder. So close to clean, yet so often forgotten. We brush our teeth every day. We floss when we remember, maybe rinse with mouthwash, and we do it all standing right in front of one of the most forgotten and surprisingly dirty items in the entire house, the toothbrush holder. It sits quietly by the sink, holding something we put in our mouths every single day, and yet we almost never clean it. Here's the problem. That little cup or stand is the perfect storm of germs. It's constantly damp from wet brushes, catches soap splashes, and if it's anywhere near the toilet, it may even pick up airborne particles you don't want to think too hard about. Over time, it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria, mold, and mildew, and we don't see it until we do. One grandmother told me she bought a new toothbrush because the old one smelled funny after just a few days. She blamed the brand, but when she looked inside her holder, she found a sticky, dark ring of grime settled at the bottom. She had never cleaned it, ever. After a good scrub and adding it to her weekly routine, the smell disappeared, and so did her concern about mouth irritation. So here's what to do. Once a week, take 5 minutes to give your toothbrush holder a proper clean. If it's plastic, ceramic, or glass, wash it in warm, soapy water, just like a dish. Scrub the inside bottom well. It's where most of the buildup hides. If you spot mold or dark stains, soak it in a solution of warm water and a splash of bleach for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then rinse thoroughly and dry before putting anything back inside. If your holder has a lid or mount, don't forget to clean around the hinges or corners. Those areas collect residue too. And here's a tip, especially for those of us who like things tidy but might be in a rush. Always let toothbrushes air dry before placing them back in the holder. If they sit wet and touching each other, it's like setting up a little germ party every night. The point is this. What's the use of brushing your teeth if the place your toothbrush lives is silently working against you? Clean holder, clean brush, clean start to the day. It's a tiny act of care. But like most things in life, the little details matter most. 6. Bathroom drains. The buildup below the surface. The bathroom is where we go to feel clean. We shower, we wash up, we start and end our days there. But there's one spot in that space, usually just a few inches below our feet, that almost nobody thinks about until there's a problem. The drain. Whether it's in your shower, tub, or on the bathroom floor, that little opening is where everything washes away and where a whole lot of other stuff quietly stays behind. Hair, soap scum, dead skin, conditioner, oils from our body. They all swirl down the drain together. And over time, that mixture clings to the inside of the pipes, building up into a thick, sludgy film. It slows the water, traps odors, and if left alone too long, it starts giving off that unmistakable musty smell. You know the one, when the bathroom looks clean but somehow still smells off. One viewer told me she'd scrubbed her bathroom top to bottom. She replaced the towels, cleaned the floor, even tried fancy air fresheners. Nothing worked. Then one day, she unscrewed the drain cover. What she found was enough to make her gag. A matted mess of hair and grime she didn't even know was there. Once she cleared it out, the air in the bathroom changed. She said it was like opening a window that had been shut for years. Here's what you can do. Once a week, take just a few minutes to care for the drains. Start by removing the drain cover. Use gloves if needed, and pull out any visible hair or gunk. Next, boil a kettle of water and pour it slowly down the drain. Then follow with half a cup of baking soda, and immediately after, a cup of white vinegar. You'll hear a fizz. That's a good sign. Let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes, then flush again with hot water. For tougher buildup or bad smells, you can use a drain-safe enzyme cleaner once a month. Keeping your drains clear isn't just about preventing clogs, it's about keeping the air clean, the space fresh, and your bathroom feeling like the place of comfort and care it's meant to be. Because sometimes, what we don't see below the surface still affects everything above it. 7. Baseboards. The dust beneath your feet. Let's shift our focus downward to a spot you may never think about unless you're painting or moving furniture. The baseboards. Those little ledges that line the bottom of every wall in your home. They're quiet, they stay out of sight, and because they're not at eye level, they almost always get ignored. But if your home ever feels dusty or the air seems heavy, especially right after cleaning, this might be the place to look. You see, baseboards are like dust magnets. They catch everything that floats down: pet hair, crumbs, lint, even cooking oils if they're near the kitchen. Over time, a thin layer builds up, and it doesn't just sit there. Every time someone walks by, every time a breeze comes through a window, that dust gets stirred up into the air again. For anyone with allergies, asthma, or even just a sensitive nose, it can make a real difference. I remember one woman telling me that she cleaned constantly, but something always felt stale. Then one holiday season, she was deep cleaning before family came over and decided, on a whim, to wipe the baseboards. She expected a little dust. What she found was years' worth of buildup, especially in the corners. After just one full wipe down, she said her home smelled different, lighter, cleaner, and most of all, it felt better. Cleaning baseboards doesn't have to be complicated. Start with a vacuum using a soft brush attachment to pull up loose dust. Then take a damp cloth with a little dish soap or diluted vinegar and gently wipe along the length of each board. If your baseboards are wooden, use a cleaner made for wood to protect the finish. Focus especially on the corners, under windows, and near doors. Those spots tend to collect the most grime. It's one of those small things that makes a big difference. When the frame around your home, the quiet outline beneath your feet, is clean, everything inside it feels just a little more cared for. And sometimes, that's all we really need, to feel like the space we're living in is finally breathing with us, not against us. 8. Cabinet handles, the hidden grease we overlook. Now let's step into the heart of the home, the kitchen. It's where we cook, gather, and share memories. But in all the cleaning we do, the dishes, the countertops, the floors, there's one spot that quietly slips through the cracks: the cabinet handles. Those small little touch points we grab 100 times a day without thinking. Open a drawer, reach for a spice, pull out a mug, and never once pause to clean the handle itself. It may not seem like a big deal. After all, they're small. But cabinet handles are prime real estate for grime. Think about it. We touch them right after handling raw meat, stirring a pot, working with oil, or even wiping messy hands. Over time, all that builds up into a sticky film: grease, dust, crumbs, all sitting on the surfaces we touch most. I remember a woman telling me she had beautiful white cabinets in her kitchen, but as the years went by, they seemed to turn yellow, especially around the handles. She thought it was just age or sun damage. Then she decided to clean the handles, really clean them, and to her surprise, the original color came back. The yellow wasn't age, it was simply years of unnoticed buildup. Here's how to stay ahead of it. Once a week, take a damp cloth with a little dish soap or white vinegar and wipe down the handles. For grooves or detailed edges, an old toothbrush works wonders. If your kitchen has a lot of cabinets and it feels overwhelming, break it up. Do one side of the kitchen this week, the other side next week. That way it stays manageable. Clean handles may not sound glamorous, but they make a bigger difference than you'd expect. When your fingers touch a smooth, clean surface instead of a sticky one, your whole kitchen feels fresher. And more than that, it feels loved. Because in the space where meals are made and memories are shared, it's often the smallest things that carry the most meaning. 9. Welcome mat. The first to get dirty, the last to be cleaned. Let's take a step outside, literally, and talk about something you probably see every single day, but almost never think about, your welcome mat. That little rug by the front door that says, "You're home now." It's warm, familiar, and often one of the first things guests see. But here's what most people don't realize. It's also one of the dirtiest items in the entire house. Think about it. Your shoes carry everything from outside: dust, pollen, city grime, traces of lawn chemicals, maybe even bacteria from sidewalks or store floors. And the welcome mat is where it all collects. Even if you're someone who takes your shoes off at the door, and that's a great habit, the mat already caught whatever those shoes brought in. One woman told me her living room always smelled faintly like wet dog, and she didn't own a dog. She tried candles, sprays, even washed her curtains. Nothing worked. Then she thought about the mat. When she flipped it over, it was damp underneath, packed with dirt. She cleaned it, let it dry fully in the sun, and just like that, the smell was gone. So here's how to give your mat a little care. Every few days, give it a good shake outdoors. Once a week, vacuum it thoroughly, top and bottom if you can. And once a month, give it a deep clean. If it's washable, hose it down with soapy water and let it dry in the sun. Sunlight naturally helps kill bacteria and odors. If it's a fiber or rubber mat that can't get wet, spray it with a disinfectant or wipe it down with a vinegar solution. It doesn't take much, but it makes a difference you can feel the moment you walk through the door. Because that first step into your home sets the tone for everything else. And when it feels clean, calm, and welcoming, you do too. 10. Refrigerator handles, the forgotten touch point of the kitchen. Let's stay in the kitchen for one last stop, right at the refrigerator. It's where we store the good stuff. Leftovers from last night's dinner, fresh fruit, cold drinks on a hot day. We open that door dozens of times a day without thinking. But how often do we clean the part we touch the most, the handle? The truth is, refrigerator handles are one of the most touched and most overlooked surfaces in the home. We might be handling raw meat, wiping down counters, or snacking with sticky fingers. Then we grab the fridge handle without a second thought. And over time, it starts to show a dullness in color, a greasy feel, a bit of tackiness that doesn't belong. But because it happens slowly, we barely notice, until one day we do. One woman I spoke with was convinced her fridge was just getting old. The handles looked worn, like they had lost their shine. She even started browsing for a new one online. Then she gave it a deep clean. Out came a soft cloth, some vinegar, and a little dish soap. And with just a few swipes, her fridge handles looked brand new. Turns out they weren't worn out, just hiding under months of invisible buildup. Cleaning them is easy, and it makes a big difference. Twice a week, take a microfiber cloth and wipe down the handles with a gentle cleaner. White vinegar and dish soap work great. If your fridge is stainless steel, make sure you use a cleaner made for that surface and dry it afterward to avoid water spots. Don't forget the area where the handle meets the door. That spot collects grime too. For any tough gunk, a soft toothbrush can help get into the edges without scratching anything. It's such a small detail, but it transforms the way your kitchen feels. When the handle is clean, the whole fridge feels cleaner. The space feels fresher. And most importantly, it reminds us that even the most ordinary parts of daily life deserve care and attention. Because home isn't just about big gestures or big cleaning days. It's about the small choices we make, the things we touch every day, and the love we quietly leave behind in the details. So now you know, those little spots we walk past, the quiet corners we forget to touch, they carry more weight than we realize. Door handles, lampshades, baseboards, remote controls. Not flashy, not urgent, but together, they shape how your home feels. Not just how it looks, but how it feels. And that's the part we often miss. You don't need to clean all 10 spots today. This isn't about perfection. It's about intention. Pick one this week, just one. Maybe it's the drain you've been avoiding or the toothbrush holder you never thought twice about. Take 10 quiet minutes, wipe it down, breathe, and notice how your space responds. Because when you care for these small places, these forgotten corners, you're not just cleaning, you're creating peace, you're building comfort, you're saying to yourself and to everyone who enters your home, you matter. This space matters, and the love is in the details. And if this video gave you a moment of clarity, or even just made you smile a little, I'd love for you to stick around. Subscribe, share it with someone you care about, or just come back next time. Here at this channel, we believe that wisdom isn't just knowing what needs to be done, it's doing it with heart. So take a breath, look around your home with new eyes, and remember, real cleaning doesn't start with a mop or a spray bottle. It starts with love.